to a Brighter Future program. Here's Carrie Silver.
Thank you, Sarah. And hello, everybody. As you don't know, we are two directors up here. Sarah was a previous director of Bridges to a Brighter Future, so great foundation set for me. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here. What you need to know about my background is I care greatly about education for all. So I'm going to talk a lot today about Bridges to a Brighter Future, who we are as a program, but even broader than that, why we exist. To give you a brief story about me, I started out as a professional writer. Then I thought, hey, this is pretty fun. Maybe I should teach a writing class. I signed up for one adjunct position while I was still working and really liked it. And 4 or 5 years later, I was finishing my PhD and teaching writing full time. So funny how that happens. I decided to change my trajectory. But anything I've done has always been to help students who are seeking help but don't always have the right direction and guidance and all that great stuff. So I'm going to start by telling you a little bit about Bridges to a Brighter Future, which is right here at Furman's campus. Let me see. Maybe I just didn't turn this. I can do that just as easy. There we go. So why is there a need for a program that helps young people get to college? Well, I'm not going to surprise anybody by saying that college degrees help you with your economic mobility. Our young people who are growing up in poverty, and those are the students that we work with, it's extremely difficult for them to get out of that cycle. So part of our mission is not only to get students to college, but it's actually to help people break the cycle of poverty through education. So we aren't just, well, college is important, but underneath it, college is the foundation that you can build upon for your future. But did you also know that those with a college degree are more likely to volunteer, less likely to be unemployed, more likely to be healthy, more likely to vote, more likely to belong to a church, more likely all of these citizenship, good neighbor sorts of things. And we could argue why that is, but bottom line, I hope we can all agree college is important in our society. Hopefully we can agree on that. Delayed clicker here. Oh, there you go. Okay, so again, why do we exist? I do have some of our brochures that I can leave out. I know we've got some folks who are on Zoom and some in person, and it has more about statistics about us. But one thing I want to get you to understand is globally, across the whole country and world, really, students who are low income, first generation, or are of color are least likely to go to college. They are also more likely to undermatch if they do go to college, which means they don't know all the options out there. They may be Duke University quality, but just go to Greenville Tech. So even when these students are able to get to college without the right guidance, they're undermatching. They're pretty much underestimating their ability. And this is statewide information, 54, actually this is going to be South Carolina data. Only a little bit more than half of low socioeconomic students enter college. And then from there, 14% of low SES students receive a bachelor's degree or higher within 8 years. So even if they're going part-time, taking their time, getting their degree while working, it's really challenging for them to actually reach the finish line. And then the undermatched that we've already talked about. So how do we combat some of this? And I do want to point out that we are 25 years old as an institution. So we have a lot of data that we can put forth here, but the reason that we came into existence 25 years ago, this need for support for low-income youth in Greenville County to have that foundation to grow on is still prevalent. So even though we've evolved in our practices based on research, experience, data, it's still the same need that we had 25 years ago. So those low numbers before that I told you from the state, we have 92% of our individuals go directly into college or military. And I put military in there because generally we have one student a year who decides that military is their path. And we work with them to make sure they understand how to use tuition credits and get back into school. We have an individual in the military right now who's working part-time on a degree. So as long as you know what your future is and you've got that post-secondary success plan, we're supporting you. And that's a huge number, and that's 10 years of data encapsulated in that number. And for some students, we try really hard. We don't have 100% of students going straight into college, and some of that could be COVID. I can actually say it is COVID. We've got some students who have to stay home and help family members. We had students who had plans for college over the past 2 years, and it didn't work out. It didn't come to fruition because of all the challenges that we've all been experiencing. It's a really hard time to be anybody in this pandemic, but it's a really hard time to be a student or a young person trying to figure out your future when you're not even sure if school's going to be open tomorrow. We have great success persisting from the first year to the second year of college. And nationally, it's only 79%. We have 87%. We are an outstanding program because our definition of college success is graduating college. A lot of college access programs, just about everyone, their measure of success is graduating high school and being accepted to college. Not even stepping foot on college campus in the fall, but being accepted. We want to go beyond that because there's something called summer melt that happens after students graduate high school. Things happen that summer. They start realizing there's a technology fee. Oh, I'm working. It's really nice to have a paycheck. Do I really want to go off to school? And it causes a lot of students who have been accepted and even put in their deposit to not actually get on a college campus. Then once they're there, you think about students who've had support and trying to have academic accommodations. Maybe they're getting to college and they're thinking, nobody in my classroom looks like me. I can remember one of our students who went to Wofford and she got a full scholarship. I mean, our students are really outstanding, but she said she can go a whole day of classes and not see one other student with black skin like hers. And that's hard. So, you know, persisting to the second year, going home and then getting back on campus, that's a big deal. And we support our students in college by doing campus visits, going to see them, checking in with them, sending them care packages, letting them know that we support them, helping them with their FAFSA, because that thing has to be done every year, seeing how things are going at home, and if we need to help with anything so they don't have to leave campus and come home. So our program can be 7 years. We take students, I think the next slide should tell you a little bit more about our program. We take students in the 9th grade, there we go, and we keep with them until they graduate college. So if you think about that, we are taking these students, we're getting to know their siblings, their family members, their cousins, anybody who we can support because we're breaking that cycle of poverty. And that goes beyond just one student. So we work with these students and these families for 7 years and we're making a huge impact. We just had, and if you go to our website under About Us, there's a 25th celebration tab. We just had a 25th anniversary alumni reunion in December. And it was so amazing to see all the alumni who are coming from all over. We even had somebody from our Alpha class from 1997 came. We got to see there are so many people who are in giving professions. Teachers, doctors, dentists, social workers, psychologists, folks who work in schools, doing intervention work, communities in schools. It was amazing to see how all of these students are getting back and doing amazing things. And part of that is because we formed such a bond and got to know them so well and helped them figure out themselves so well that they decided they wanted to make their life mean something. So helping bridges really is helping Greenville County. We have graduates who work at the United Way. We are making an impact. We as a community, and it's all about community here. So to be eligible, you do have to be low income. So our average household income is $29,000, and that's for a family of, well, it doesn't matter how many for that number, but it's generally 4 or 5 people in a household. So that's a challenge. And we're learning more and more about how chronic poverty impacts a person's life and how it can actually impact their brain. So it can mess with the chemistry, the makeup of a person's body and manifest as trauma. I mean, this is powerful, powerful stuff that's pulling them back from being successful. They have to have a 3.0 grade average in clean discipline. Part of that is we invest a lot in our students, and we want to make sure that they're investing in themselves as well. We were extremely fortunate 25 years ago to get an endowment from Mamie Bruce, a woman in Greenville County who realized we needed something in this program. So we have an endowment that makes sure that the lights stay on, that we have staff paid, we can do all of those things. Furman gives us office space in kind, which is an amazing benefit if anybody's had to pay, rental bills for a business. But because we have those things covered, we can say that all the money that we raise goes directly to students and programs. And so, we invest a lot. We give a lot to these students, and we want to make sure that they are invested and going to be grateful and use it to better themselves moving forward. And I could talk forever about bridges, but if I had to narrow it down to the 3 main things we do, we have 3 parts of bridges. Now, 25 years ago, we started as a summer program, and it was very valuable, but it was just in the 4 weeks in the summer. Now, those 4 weeks are hugely impactful. We hire Greenville County teachers to teach classes, which also, as a sidebar, gives them summer employment. We have electives. Sometimes it's the first time kids have gotten to do ceramics, or we've had magic, we've had video production, all kinds of different electives that get to broaden their perspective. We do fitness things in the evening. Some kids want to just play pickup basketball, but we also teach swimming, martial arts. We've had Zumba before, step classes, encouraging that whole mind, body, soul health. We get to give them time to live on campus, see themselves on a college campus. That's one of the most important things in college access, is letting students see themselves on a college campus and know that it can be real. So especially if they haven't seen a lot of people in their lives who look like them, who've been on a college campus, letting them be on a college campus themselves and set the precedent. So this is a good point to say, this is not a diversity program. I've never said this is for students from underrepresented races. It's based on economy, but do we know that those things overlap quite a bit? So we do have great diversity in our program, and it's a beautiful thing to see everybody get together, learn about each other, learn about the future. I think it really affects the students in a positive way. So from the summer program, where we also do community service and college tours and fun things, some of these kids just need a little break. They're used to going to school, working McDonald's, taking care of 2 little siblings. So you would not believe how excited they are in the summer if we take them to a water park and they just get to be 15. We do all kinds of international, cultural sort of things in the summer, and it's great, but it's just the summer. So from there, Saturday College was born. So we come back to campus 1 Saturday a month. This Saturday is our Saturday College for January, and we do workshops and tutoring. We feed them, make sure they've got food. We have cultural activities, lunch and learns, an opportunity to connect and be together again throughout the year. We also do school visits. So everybody gets a visit in school every semester. We have 75 active high school students at a time. We take 25 students every year. So we have 25 10th graders, 25 11th, 25 12. And we actually come to them to make sure that they're getting that individual attention and support. And it's really easy if I text you and say, how are you? What's going on? I'm good. Do you need anything? No. But if I'm sitting in front of you, how are you? And tears well up and they say, I'm fine. It's a lot better to get to the core of what's happening than just text messages. So we do that throughout. And then growing even more, crossing the bridge, we realized that issue of graduating high school and getting accepted to college is great, but if you don't get to college, and then once you're there and you don't have the support and the understanding and a parent to call up and say, what does it mean that I have to do this orientation? Then they're not going to stay. So we do the Crossing the Bridge program, and that's the stuff I talked to you before about, visiting them on campus and in the notes, checking in, making sure they've got everything going on. Sometimes it even means just going to campus to walk them to a counselor if they need to. Oh, you got a message that you need to see your advisor, but you're not going. No, you really need to go. Sometimes that is really what they need. It's just a little encouragement. We do a whole bunch of other things throughout the year, college trips. By the time a student gets through their 3 years of high school in Bridges, they should have toured 30 colleges. The pandemic has made that really challenging, but we're working on that. Doing programs like youth and government, our students are really socially active-minded, which is a beautiful thing. So we try to give them channels where they can focus all of that energy. We have programs like College Buddies, where we have community members who've been to college, connect with one of our college-bound students, and help give them support as well. We have book clubs. When we can find sponsors, we've taken them to the Peace Center. Sometimes when we take these students somewhere, it's the first time they've left Greenville County. We've shown students the ocean before when we've gone to tour colleges in Charleston, and you would not believe how many people on our bus said they've never seen the ocean before. So we're opening their eyes and giving them experiences that are going to help them build their own foundations for their future. And I want to make sure that I give you time to ask questions. I always feel like I rush through this because there are so many things that I could say about Bridges. But the bottom line, if I want you to remember one thing, is that the issues that were here 25 years ago, the challenges, getting everybody access to college, still exist. But there's hope. We can do things. We know things. We know from data, but from experiences too. The more times a student, a young person can get on a college campus, the more likely they are to apply to college. We know that students who come from certain backgrounds will face experiences like getting a FAFSA form and letting that be the end. I mean, some people say this is a government form. This is something that I don't know about. I'm just not going to do it. We have students who you wouldn't believe who say, I didn't know I could come to Furman's campus because there's a gate. So their interpretation is it's closed off to them. We can overcome those challenges. Economic mobility is an issue in Greenville County in general. The United Way is working really hard on it. The Chamber is working hard on it. One of the best ways to ensure economic mobility, the key to getting out of the cycle of poverty, is education. Even more than that, it's believing in yourself and having an idea of what you want to do and using education as that tool. Our students are just outstanding. When I say they need special support, we have students who have parents who are incarcerated, members of their household who are addicted to drugs or alcohol. We have several students who've been in foster care or are currently in a home, first generation American. We have students who are really not just living in chronic poverty, but are experiencing these major life barriers that are telling them, you are not meant for college. You are not meant for more. Why even graduate high school? You're just bound to stay in the same cycle that your family's been in. And we're here to take that horrible voice away and say, yeah, you may be a survivor of abuse. You may have some mental health challenges. You may have lived your whole life in chronic poverty, but you can do and be more. I can give you examples of students that I'm like, who are some of the most outstanding students, but I don't know that I could pick some. So if you have questions, I would love to hear what your questions are. I wonder if there's a way to see the chat as well.
Questions here.
Okay.
Anybody have a question here? Okay.
Hi there, I'm Les Harrison. You mentioned in the criteria for students that you have a clean discipline record or something like that. Okay, I'll hold that. Okay. When students under those conditions that you mentioned, their home condition and everything, what does clean mean?
That is such a great question because it's an issue that I talk with the counselors in our schools about. I didn't mention that students have to be nominated to be in the program. So generally it's a teacher, an after-school director, a counselor who recommends them. And we have students who have been reprimanded in school for certain things. We have a conversation. So I'll give you a couple examples from recent selection processes. We had one student who was in trouble for truancy. She just wasn't going to school. Talked to her. She was being bullied. And so there was a certain class that she sat in the bathroom for the entire time. And that's heartbreaking that she avoided class because she was being bullied so critically. She was punished for that. That is not something that I would consider trouble. We've had a student who, and we work with our counselors to say, you know, if the student really needs it, we're gonna understand the process. Student who got into a fight at school that year, talking with them, realized somebody was insulting her brother, and and that's how you deal with things in certain backgrounds. And so she punched him and got in trouble. She was honest with us. We said, what would be another way to work with it, deal with it? She's now in college. So she's actually at SC State right now. She was admitted into the program and we moved forward. There have been a couple instances where, you know, a student had multiple continual things, or drug possessions, fighting, and if they don't want to change or they don't understand that you can't bring drugs to school, you know, there's something else for them, we might not be it. One of the most heartbreaking parts is telling students they didn't get into Bridges, because we can interview up to 100 students a year and we take 25. So we actually work with counselors and the students directly to refer them to other programs. We have partnerships with Greenville Tech, Clemson, some of their programs. If our students don't make it here, then we can place them somewhere else. And then we have some just casual agreements like the Greenville Police Academy for the summer. If I refer a student, then they are not charged tuition. So in interviews, if I make a note interested in law enforcement, but they don't get into Bridges, then I'll contact them and say, have you considered this? But I love that the question recognizes that our current circumstances, after they leave Bridges, they do go home. They are in their homes. That is hard stuff to get out of your brain. I can say the same thing for academics. We have a 3.0 standard. Saying that, still understanding that not every high school is built equally. And then, you know, if a student really slips, or even if when they're interviewing, they had a semester where they did not maintain that, but, you know, it was because they were out of school for a mental health issue. We work with them. If a student is in our program and falls below 3.0, then they're on probation. So I go work with them. I visit them in the school every week, making sure that they've got their homework done. So we really work with students to make sure that they maintain. We got to have something in writing, but I like that you're thinking beyond just the words.
When you select a student and you have these programs, and now they get accepted to college. They get accepted to college. What are you providing for them in terms of tuition, room and board, that sort of
Good question. So of our last class, we had 7 students who received full rides all 4 years at institutions like Clemson, Davidson, Furman. So our first line of defense is helping them get scholarships, a lot of merit-based or need-based. We just for our 25th anniversary created a scholarship fund and we're working on endowing it so we can have money in perpetuity to get to students. We work with partners in the community. If a student uses all of their financial aid, all their merit-based, all of their need-based, and they still have a gap, to try to work on that. The ability to have our own funds to help that is amazing. So I never promised to a student coming in that you will not have to pay for college, but we can promise that we're going to do everything we can to help minimize their debt. So we've come a long way in that fight.
Hi, I live at the Woodlands, and about 2 years ago, we had 3 of your students come to coffee and conversation one, and it was so exciting. Those kids were wonderful. They just encouraged all of us to get more involved in this program, and I would like to see more of that. We bring some of the students and maybe to Ollie here or to other things to make people aware of what's happening with these kids. Because they were really alive and so excited about being there and proud.
I'm so happy to hear that. Yeah, they wear this as a badge of honor, being in Bridges. And one thing that I think is really important is teaching them how to talk with other people, but also intergenerational conversations. So I'm so glad you brought that up because that's going to be a reminder to me to keep those things happening.
I'm kind of a distance from you, so don't.
Okay. Well, going to college is nice, but the whole point of it is to get into a career and a job and employment. What sort of testing and work do you do with the kids to ensure that after the end of 4 years, they come out with a degree that is not just a BS in the wrong sense of the word degree, but a BS or BA degree that they can actually build on and have a career?
That's a wonderful question. So we have a college planning curriculum that is a sturdy, data-informed model that takes students from 10th grade to 11th grade to 12th grade on college. And part of the 11th grade curriculum is discovering who you are and what you might be good at and looking at how that might fit into a career. Then from there, we are working right now on planning some programs this summer, for example, to bring people to our program to show what it means to be an architect. What does it mean to be a social worker? What does it mean so they can understand the job before they get into it? We really don't want students to go to college, maybe incur some debt, and then realize they don't even like what they study. So we try to have that foundation. And then we do a lot of one-on-one counseling. From the point they're in college, a lot of it is encouraging them to go to their career center, keep conversations going. We do need more partners in the community who would allow job shadowing. Even if we have students who say they really want to be a teacher and they're in a classroom every day, being on this side of the podium can be a little different. Students who say, I'm thinking one student who really wanted to be a veterinarian. And so I have an animal, so I talked to my veterinarian and he shadowed her and he decided, well, let's just say he's an engineering major now. So sometimes it's just exposure. It's still something I'm really working on. My philosophy when I coach and counsel students is to have a plan and then you can change it later. So many of these students, and I don't think it's just our students, I think it's just, maybe it's a human thing. When they're 16, they think they're trying to figure out their whole life. And what am I going to do for the rest of my life? So my philosophy is, let's figure out what you're good at, find some skills that you can build on and make a plan. and know that it might change. You may change your major. You may start your job. My first job, as Sarah mentioned, was at the Greenville News. I knew it was the place I wanted to be. Newspapers have kind of died. So in 2003, I think it was, Gannett Corporation laid off 10,000 people across the United States, and I was one of them. So I use that example to tell students, just have a plan. It's going to change. It may. Just have something so you can keep going.
Do all selections start with the nomination?
They do.
Who can make those nominations?
We accept community nominations. So if you know of a current 9th grader, you can contact me directly. We work with our school guidance counselors all across Greenville County. There's actually 19 schools that we work with. So all the public schools, and then a couple of our charter schools like Legacy and Greenville Early College are targeted to students like ours. And they go through a training, we give them packets, they know who to identify. But that doesn't cover everybody. So if you have somebody, a neighbor who you've been mentoring, or you've been a big brother or big sister to somebody, we take those as well. And then it's up to the student to apply. And it's an online form, English and Spanish, but we also have paper printouts if, website, Wi-Fi isn't easy. And then if they do that process, we interview them. So the nominations do have to start somewhere. And you are welcome as community members to nominate students that you know.
Would you look at the questions on chat?
Let's see. What's the best way to do this?
You see it up at the top? Okay, there you go. Nope.
None right now.
Okay. Anybody else here?
I've been involved with your summer program for about 5 years now as a mentor. We did the magic with Ollie's Team Tech team and robotics and biochemistry and several other things, and have really, really enjoyed it. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. And I have to say I love going into those classes and observing, but you guys who do that program, you know what you're doing. You're running with things and I don't even have to worry about you. So thank you. But those are instances where there are kids who, some of the kids who took magic, for example, this past summer, are hard to connect with and hard to reach. And, some of them, I'm new to them too. So it takes a while to build trust. Dinner after those magic classes, I could actually say, hey, what did you learn? And they could show me a trick. And it helped me connect with the students too. And they were horrible. That was the best part. Like, oh wait, I forgot. I was supposed to do this. Hold on, let me start over. But it helped bring them out of their shell. So you may think magic, what is it? But it actually was really great for igniting something in the student, getting, connections. It was really wonderful. In addition to donating money or nominating ninth graders, what are other ways? That is such a great question. What are other ways to get involved? Money is important. Nominations are important, but one of the things that's most valuable about Bridges is students know that somebody cares. And if we can have more people connect with students, COVID's kind of messed things up, but maybe we have this summer a lunch where all these students and Bridges students get together and chat. College buddies in probably around April, we'll put a call out to see if you want to be connected with a college-bound student that you can work with. Job shadowing, we are trying to be more formalized in how we look for these sorts of opportunities. Honestly, we're open to ideas. So come summer, when we have career workshops or community service panels, I will be going to probably Nancy, so I think you're on here, and just say, here's some opportunities that we need. You have folks who would be willing. So stay tuned. And there should be more ways.
Yeah,
Yes.
Do entries only occur starting at the 9th grade?
Yes. So that's important. We just have one point of entry. Now, these students, once we get these 25, once they have 2 hours together, they're best friends for life. So, you know, when they first come to campus, our first night is all team building, icebreakers, all that kind of stuff. And it'd be really hard for somebody to come into that cohort later. I regularly get questions from the community. I have an 11th grader who really needs help. I'm happy to have a conversation with the student, you know, spend an hour with them on Zoom, talk about their options, and or recommend them for another program, because I realize, you know, if nobody nominated you in 9th grade, you're out of luck for this program, but you shouldn't be out of luck for everything.
You had a question.
Yes.
You mentioned some of the students going into the military. I used to do recruiting for the National Guard, and I could show a high school student how with one enlistment, they could have a BS degree from any state school in Virginia, a used car, both of them paid for by the federal government, and no debt. So do you work with any of the Reserve or National Guard college programs? Because they're pretty generous. I mean, at least they were pretty generous.
I don't have a great contact. Do you want to be my new best friend?
A number of years, but it was between the GI Bill and the student loan, GI Bill, student loan repayment, in-state tuition. I'd sign them up, pop them into Northern Virginia Community College for 2 years, transfer them to George Mason. George Madison was very popular. They're getting the GI Bill, they're getting student loan repayment, they're getting the bonus that they got for enlistment, and they're getting a monthly check while they're in the Guard. And yeah, by and large, by the end of their first enlistment, they had all of their college paid for, and most of them actually did go for the good used car as well.
Yeah, I would love to learn more from you and how we can teach our students more about that.
Yeah.
Okay, our time's almost up. One last question, anybody?
Is that a question?
Yes. No.
You take 25 students, I think.
Yes.
What's the typical number of applicants you have against that 25?
We have 90 to 100 a year. And part of that we've learned is narrowing it down. If you are Malden High, we tell you you can nominate a certain number if you're a smaller school, because we'd have schools who like, well, I have these 35 students, we're great. And we promise to interview you if you apply. And we do that in the school. We go to the school to the students, so we never require a student to be able to transport themselves. But yeah, we can have up to 100. It's a tough decision. That's why it's so important to me that we place them in other agencies, or, we've had in the past before COVID, for those students who applied and were interviewed and didn't get accepted, we held a special Saturday college just for them, and had a special session for them, taking them to the college fair. That's not enough, but we're trying to give them something, because that's a lot of students to interview.
Our time is up. We thank you very much. We hope people will follow up with their interest. I
Yeah,
know this is a unique, special thing here at Furman. Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah, we've done